Thank you for tuning in this episode of Data Center Therapy. Today's episode is going to be on the adventures in consulting, right? So obviously, we always challenging technical issues, but those technical issues often involve a particular environment. I guess is the best way to say it. And so I got Jeremy, one of our senior consultants, with us today. And we want to talk about trip to Hong Kong. We sent him over there. That was a pretty interesting project to work on there. Then we sent him to Alaska, and he found himself in the middle of an earthquake slash tsunami warning. That was pretty interesting. And probably one of the best ones is the prison break, working on a jail and actually having a prisoner escape. So, Jeremy, so why don't you start out with your experience with Hong Kong? I know that was quite a while ago, but that was a pretty involved project over there.
Well, first off, the Hong Kong trip is probably about the farthest I've been from home. It's a whole different world over there, but it's really cool. We were working with one of the major power providers there, and we were setting up remote access to power meters. And so we were using private cellular networks and these, Cisco branded CGR boxes that go all around the city and that all the power meters talk to. It's a completely different world. So, you got 2 weeks there. So you kind of get acclimated to the place a little bit. And it kind of feels a little bit like Hawaii as far as the humidity and such. Trying different foods and different things to do there. You get to, I've tried everything from like chicken feet to black fungus to they had fried chicken. It was interesting trying to find something to eat all the time.
There wasn't like a cheeseburger on the children's menu you could have bought.
They're not at a lot of the restaurants. This was a whining and dining situation with a lot of the times with the customer and the client and such. And so a lot of these restaurants did not have a kids menu. So you kind of just had to eat what was in front of you and kind of trust that everybody's going to get you something that's not going to do something. But yeah, what the kind of the fun part is I was right there in like the Kowloon side. And so of Hong Kong Island or Hong Kong mainland. So you could see the Hong Kong Island. So you could see the laser light show at night. You could, anytime that you watch like a show or a movie that's got Hong Kong in there, they got the building with the little spires on the top of it, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is. It's right over here, and and such. They have the cool Hollywood Walk of Fame over there with like Bruce Lee's star and a statue of him and some other people. It was a really cool experience. That's one I bank away as a fun story.
And the technology I remember was actually pretty cool too, because it was working with some IPv6, I remember. And the idea is how to automatically read power meters so you could read them multiple times per day so that the electric companies would be able to charge they could encourage people to say, do your laundry after hours, right? And to give you a better rate.
Well, one of the most expensive parts about power is when you have to shut it off. You have to send a technician out there to shut the power off, and then you have to send a technician when the person goes and pays that bill to go turn it back on. It's a physical process. If you have an automated power meter, then you can shut it off and turn it on with the button. And how these things worked is it had these CGR devices that were, again, stationed throughout the city. And then the power meter. So it was an IPv4 tunnel to the CGR box, and then IPv6 to the power meters. And so you'd have all these power meters talking to each other. And so this power meters didn't necessarily need to be close to the CGR box. It needed to be close to another power meter, to another power meter, to another power meter, to another power meter that was close to the CGR box. That then went back to that power provider, through a connection, and came in through their firewall, and then populated in their. I'm not positive what the software was called, but it's the software that allows you to run all that stuff.
Very interesting. So how about because this was several years ago? What about was it a couple months ago? We sent you up to Alaska. Tell me about that with the earthquake. That was a pretty interesting story.
All right. So I got to go all over Alaska just recently. But the main story is the 8.2 earthquake / tsunami warning that was up until probably 2 a.m. in the morning. So I can paint the picture for you. So I'm on Kodiak Island, which is the second largest island in the United States. The bear and the people population, are pretty, they're not real close, but there's a whole lot of bears there. So I'm working at a place called Alatak, which it's basically just a fish processing place where fishermen come to drop their fish off, and it's about 175 people there. The only connectivity is 2 satellite connections that talk to low orbit satellites. Needless to say, the internet is slow and high latency, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we got 2 of them, and they're not cheap. But you are in the middle of nowhere, and so you have to generate you're generating your own power, your own sewer, your own water, everything that you think a small city would have as a problem, you have here. And so we were working one night, and I was just finishing up for the night, getting ready to go, getting to go to bed after doing a big network upgrade throughout the whole plant, and then we feel a shake, and then a shake, and the door slams shut, a few things fall off the counter or something like that. It's a big shake. And I was in the Snoqualmie earthquake here in Washington way back in the day, and that was pretty good. This was a lot more. So I go out, and I'm sitting on this big balcony thing where a lot of the other people are coming out, and they're starting to talk. Well, I start talking with the plant manager, and then the head of plant operations, who would just happen to be visiting there also. And they're like, yeah, you're going to want to go ahead and get, socks and shoes and boots or whatever like that, because we're going to have to evacuate. So needless to say, so I'm thinking, okay, in my head, what do I need in case there's actually something going on here? I'm like, I get my backpack, and I got my stuff going on. You bundle up as much as you can. And then literally it's 175 people walking up this big trail all the way up to then go sit on a ridge line, waiting for the Coast Guard to give us the all clear on the tsunami warning. So it's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. It's still pretty light outside, because it's the time of year to where maybe 7, 8 o'clock here is, in the summertime is pretty bright. Imagine that, 10, 11 o'clock at night, it's that light. And so you're sitting up on this ridge until about 1 o'clock in the morning, it gets dark. And on the way up the hill, I was one of maybe the first 15, 20 people. I had a little pack of red foxes run by, as we were walking up the hill. I mean, this is literally it looks like Jurassic Park, but colder. Because it's, because everything is green and there is nothing. There's, the only signs of habitation of man are 300 feet down below at the plant. Other than that, it's wild. So yeah, we waited up there till about 2 a.m. And then we finally got the all clear from the Coast Guard. And then then we're all able to walk down there. They had to fire up the generators and then wait for those to come up, and then had to go and make sure all the networking equipment, all the servers came up, all that fun stuff. So by about 3:30, 3:45 in the morning, I was able to get to bed. And then people said there was aftershocks, but I didn't feel them. I was pretty tired.
How big was the earthquake?
8.2.
And how far away from the epicenter were you?
It less than 100 miles, and there really wasn't anything. And there really wasn't anything in between it from us. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember the city or the town, but it was 20 miles off the shore, off this off the Archipelago or something. I can't pronounce it right now. It was 20 miles offshore, and then so here's Kodiak Island, and then here's the earthquake, and there's maybe a few little rocky islands, but they're super, super small. But I'm over here on this end, and then my wife just happened to be over here on the other side of Kodiak Island also. And so, I mean, there was really not a whole lot in between us. The only thing that saved us from having huge tsunamis and mass hysteria and everything going away was the simple fact that the earthquake went side to side not up and down.
Oh, interesting.
If it would have been up and down, it would have been all bad.
Right.
It would have been like the 1969 earthquake where everything, took out the whole town of Kodiak, all that other fun stuff,
Right. All right. And then the last one on our list for today, the prison break. This is something. So, to preface this, prisons are always the most interesting environments to work in. Several years ago, I did an installation for a new minimum security prison, and that was interesting. I got to walk around a prison. It was still being built, so it didn't have any prisoners in it. They had duct taped the doors all open so that nothing would lock behind you. But you could walk up into the guard shack. You could walk around into the prison cells. We're putting in the network for the infrastructure for that. But you were actually at a live prison with a prison break. Tell me about that.
I don't recommend going to prison. That doesn't sound like if there's any way you can avoid that or not do anything to get you into that situation, I would highly recommend you not do it. Yeah, from what I saw, it was pretty scary. So the job we were doing, we were installing a bunch of switches throughout these different cell blocks, and they're live. People are walking around. People are checking you out as you're walking by. It's an interesting thing. And so you have for most of the time I had two guards with me. As I was doing things, one would watch our stuff, and then the other one would be in the room while I was installing the stuff. So yeah, it was an environment that was like when nobody was in the yard and it was completely like everything was locked down and you couldn't see anybody. The prison was new enough, so it kind of looked kind of cool. It looked like apocalyptic, kind of these concrete buildings and all that other fun stuff. But then when all the prisoners got released to go in between their sites and do all these other things, that's when it got really creepy, because you're like, all right, so some of these guys are murderers, and maybe this guy just stole a car. You don't know, but it was the level of prison to where it could have been.
So you were mixed in with the population?
Mixed in with the population.
Did you have like a guard with you?
I had two. I had two most of the time.
That's always good.
Yeah. But and they're on it. Like, the guards, they're constantly asking the prisoners questions like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you over here? What are you doing over there? What are you doing over here? It's not an environment that's very awesome in any case. But so to get to the prison break. So to get to the prison break, we were over near the laundry facility, and we were putting in a couple of switches, and then we hear a little bit of a commotion, and then we hear the prisoners yell in one of the cell blocks that was farther away. We could hear them yelling, like cheering somebody on. And so we immediately, they stopped me from what I'm doing, and we close the door, and we go out there and we look, and we see this guy running down this fence line where it's got these two fences going like this, and barbed wire on the top. It's full on prison. It's chain link and razor wire at the top. Well, so this guy, he runs barefoot with a couple pairs of sweatpants on and a couple sweatshirts on. He runs barefoot down the side of this path, climbs up halfway onto the fence, and then climbs onto the awning of the building, and then climbs onto the roof of the building. Now, the building is literally in the middle of the prison. You're not going to get anywhere by getting onto this building other than maybe some bragging rights with the guys in your cell block or something, like you made it this far. I don't know. But yeah, ran literally just right down the thing. And so then you see him get on to make his way eventually up to the roof, but that's when he got taken down, and they do their thing. They contain the prisoner, do their thing. They think he was on a whole lot of drugs because he refused to take a lot of the drugs before, a lot of the drug tests before. So you can make your own determinations. But what ended up happening is they ended up having to restrain this guy to where he was in one of those wheelchairs. That's not because you're broken. It's because you're being restrained. It's one of these things to where your arms and your body and spit bag over your head. And we just happened to be out there because one of the guards that I was with, he's on their quick response team. The quick response team guys are the ones who have to go to respond to these things that happen. Like they have the ability to drop what they're doing and go. And so that's what he did. So the guy I was with, he was over there filming this whole thing, because they have to have all this stuff for documentation purposes and everything, right? And so they go literally, wheeling this guy maybe 10, 15 feet from me, all, just right on by us, and it's one of the, it was a really crazy experience, because then we go into 2 hours of lockdown. We have to go into the laundry facility area, and then we go into like the main control room of the laundry facility area, and we just sit there. We sit there for literally 2 hours, just kind of waiting for the personnel count to happen. They do a prisoner count, and then they do a personnel count, or vice versa. I didn't get to catch which one was going on first, but scary situation.
So you being in the middle of all that, what did they do with you? Did your 2 security guards leave you to go deal with the prison break? Did they?
No. They can't leave me. One of them left me. I had 2. And so they left the lady with me, and then the dude ran off to go film.
Okay. So a good thing you had redundancy going in there with.
Most definitely. And I worked quickly too. That they were, they said, "Oh, you definitely don't work for the government," when I was through there.
Very interesting. Well, cool. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing those experiences with the consulting, Jeremy. That's one of the things that I find always interesting with consultant in the consultancy space anyway, is you get to meet different customers, you get to work on different types of businesses, and you just get to see and experience a whole lot of unique environments that, most people don't get to actually experience. Well, cool. Thank you for your time today, Jeremy. Stay tuned for the next episode of Data Center Therapy.